Morning, everyone. It's Vanessa. It's now Thursday, and we have snow melt coming off the roof. It's beautiful today. I think it's supposed to get to 30, and then we're going to plunge into the the polar vortex again in a couple days. So I wanted to share about my faith community nurse journey. I became the faith community nurse at a neighboring Catholic church. I was not a member, but I figured I could make a difference. And sharing my faith with others has always been something I've wanted to do, but in healthcare, I don't know if it's really frowned upon, but it's not glorified when you share about God. But I used to pray with individuals in the hospital and just give them words of encouragement, bring in priests and ministers to visit, and I enjoyed that so much. So when I had the opportunity to become the faith community nurse, I jumped at it. I was told I could make the ministry, the position, anything I wanted. I could make changes and grow it, and it was so exciting. My question to them at the time was, do you really need a 4-year RN? That was part of the job description, that you have a 4-year RN. Because in my eyes, it was more a volunteer coordinator that they needed, a ministry coordinator. But no, the priest said, no, we want a 4-year RN so that you can manage people. So again, I went in, I was super excited, and hit the floor running. I visited so many people. I had hundreds of people I would see in a week, and I would do a rotation. So on Mondays, I would see these people, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, so on and so forth. I had a few volunteers, maybe 20, who helped with Mass once a month, and they would ensure that residents made it to the Mass, and that Father had everything he needed to perform that Mass, and what a blessing. They so loved what they were doing, and I appreciated that, and I thought, we could really grow this ministry if I can get some volunteers to help me. I had other things in mind for this ministry, supporting new moms, helping people with blood pressure checks, questions about medications, and all my time was consumed with bringing communion to homebound. I loved it. I did, but I wanted to grow this ministry. And the outgoing nurse had said, nope, it's just me, and it's just you. So I decided to throw it out there to members of the congregation to see if any interest was piqued to have volunteers come and help me with bringing communion to the homebound. These people weren't sick. I had to clarify that they weren't visiting sick people. They were just visiting homebound parishioners who no longer had the ability to get to church. Wow! I had so many volunteers come to me, super excited to find a role within their church and have a purpose within their church. It was beautiful. I went from having 20, 25 people to having 70 plus people coming to share the Lord and their church life with fellow parishioners. It was beautiful. Of course, I had pushback from the nurse who had left. She was up in my face, not in my face, but behind my back, bashing me and the changes I was making. Again, I was told I could make changes, and I'm sure it was difficult for her. She had been in the role for several years and had done great things, but my vision was a little bit different, and so when I made changes, she was not so agreeable. I also had an administrator at the the parish office who didn't like change, because any little change I tried to make was met with resistance. My first act was to bring these volunteers in and to combine 2 volunteer groups. And the 2 groups were pretty much the same. They were looking for people to come and witness with others. So I combined them into one, and that was my first mistake, I guess, because I heard nothing but horrible things about how dare I make changes like that when the previous nurse had worked so hard to make these 2 groups. Well, there were job descriptions with these volunteer groups she had made, and I took those job descriptions and threw them out the window because they were so specific, and there was a reason she wasn't getting any help, because she wanted them to be molded into what she thought people needed. I was looking for people who wanted to give an hour, people who wanted to give 15 minutes, people who wanted to give a day or a week. And they came. God provided these individuals who were super excited. And so I grew the ministry, the homebound ministry, in leaps and bounds. I was there about a year. But other changes also came, and they were met with such resistance, and it was such a shame. And I kept meeting with the priest and asking him if I was really the person, if he really needed a nurse. And yep. But then I would meet resistance within the parish office, and it kind of broke my heart and broke my spirits. So anyways, I made a couple changes. I impacted many people's lives. I gave them purpose within the church. And then I had to bow out, because those small changes that made huge, great impacts within the church were so frowned upon in the church that I felt led by God that I had done what I needed to do and needed to step aside. So I left the church, but I left the people of the congregation in charge of such a ministry. And what a blessing. It saved the church my salary, which, in nursing standards, it wasn't what I would have made at a hospital, but it saved them that money. And they found a volunteer coordinator who's there part-time to coordinate the volunteers to go visit these individuals. How wonderful. So, when you're met with challenges, just remember there's a bigger picture. I took a ministry within a church that focused on one individual person and their need to be the center of attention and to receive praise and glory for what they were doing, and turned it into the congregation's glory and gave purpose to individuals. It's amazing how you touch lives without realizing. Well, I did realize, but without realizing the huge impact you do make. So even though something seems like it's a struggle, continue to persevere and trust that what you're doing has a purpose, because it does. I gave a congregation back their congregation, and I'm so thankful, and my heart's so full knowing that the individuals that are at home are still receiving communion and are still active members of their church. It's beautiful. Don't question God's purpose for you. Some things seem so goofy, but yet they mean so much. Trust that. Trust that and love that and embrace that. God bless everyone.